Welcome back to the Traincare facility. So this is a video which I originally had in mind that I was going to make during Pride Month. However, the more I thought about it, that didn't really feel appropriate, because these videos tend to be quite introspective, and Pride Month isn't about my voice or my story. In fact, I don't really want the framing of this video to be me giving advice on how to be a better LGBTQ ally, because I only have one piece of advice, and that's don't listen to me, basically. There are plenty of LGBTQ+ content creators out there who will point you in the right direction. Jessie Gender is a good place to start, I would say. I personally follow a lot of her content. Also Katie Montgomery, though I believe she's mainly active on Twitter, but she does have a YouTube presence. There's also Laura Kate Dale, editor of the book Gender Euphoria, Jammy Dodger, The Queer Kiwi. ContraPoints is a pretty well-known one, though I'll admit I haven't seen very much of her stuff personally. If any of you in the comments know of any really good LGBTQ+ content creator recommendations that I've missed out in that list, do feel free to share them. But yeah, the point is there's plenty of them out there, you don't need my opinion. The purpose of this is to be more of a self-evaluation, and again, if you're in the LGBTQ community and you have any advice for me on how I could be doing things better, then you're very welcome to share. I've been talking about LGBTQ related topics on this channel for quite some time now, and I have absolutely no shame in doing that, because a lot of the time this stuff is very important, and while I'm sure there will be some people who will see it as inserting politics into my content or some garbage like that, the way I see it is if you have an issue with me being supportive of trans rights and LGBTQ rights, then you are the one with the problem, and I have no intention of pandering to bigotry. For those who don't know, when I first started the Midnight Chimes YouTube channel, I was primarily reviewing episodes of My Little Pony, and actually one of the main reasons I initially wanted to talk about LGBTQ stuff was that I got kind of sick of the amount of people in the brony community who seemed to think it was acceptable to just misgender and deadname someone either because they did something really bad that means they're not entitled to respect, or in some cases just because you don't agree with them. Because yeah, you would think that if you're in a fandom revolving around My Little Pony of all things that you would be open-minded and not be bigoted, but you would be surprised. I saw this most often with Lily Orchard, who was still active in making My Little Pony content at that time, and for the record, I'm not about to defend Lily Orchard or any of the allegations that have come out against her, but I'm also never going to misgender her because pronouns are not something that anyone should have to earn the right to. So I really wanted to push back against that, and my first attempt at doing that was pretty terrible now that I look back on it with hindsight. I did get a friend of mine from the LGBTQ community to come on and share their thoughts in the video, but that was about the only thing I got right. For one, the original title of the video, which I've subsequently changed, was something like transgenderism and why pronouns matter. Now, the word transgenderism is not a term that any trans person actually uses, probably because it sounds ideological, and that's a very important distinction to make, that gender identity is not an ideology, and so I don't have that word in my vocabulary anymore. But that about sums up the main problem with the video, that I approached it by just talking over the trans community with my own opinions as opposed to actually listening and doing research. Shortly afterwards I got pulled into a call on Discord with a content creator by the name of Patchwork Heart who wrung my neck about it, probably quite rightly now that I look back, and one of the things they said in that call that has always stuck with me ever since is that LGBTQ rights is a subject matter which has an effect on real people and has real life consequences, so you can't just treat it like you're giving an opinion on a TV show or something inconsequential. I think part of the reason why that resonates with me is that I'm on the autistic spectrum and know how frustrating it can be when uninformed people who don't have our lived experience talk over the top of us. That's why there is a saying in the autistic community which is nothing about us without us, a phrase which I now always try to keep in mind when talking about other marginalised groups as well. That's why in all of my videos discussing LGBTQ related topics I will always reference what people who are in that community are saying and link to LGBTQ+ content creators. The way I see it, as an ally, your job is to listen and to signal boost and to spread awareness, not to be inserting your own opinions. viewers, because at the end of the day, I don't have a stake in this, and other people do, so their words matter a lot more than mine do, which kind of goes back to what I was saying right at the beginning. Another thing to bear in mind is that no community is a monolith, and it's important therefore to be aware of the diversity of voices that exist within that community. A good example of this is my recent video talking about LGBTQ representation in Doctor Who, where I mentioned that the episode The Star Beast seems to be confused about Rose Noble's gender identity, and that was because I'd seen Council of Geeks, who is a gender-fluid Doctor Who reviewer, critiquing the same point, and as someone who is non-binary herself, I figured that she would be an authority on the subject. But then I had another LGBTQ person in my comments section who was actually really praising the way Rose's identity was handled, so I would probably approach that script a bit differently if I was to go back and rewrite it now. Something else which I always try to do where possible is to get someone from the LGBTQ community to look over my scripts and essentially just be another set of eyes to make sure I've not inadvertently said something really stupid or misinformed. I say I try to do that because while luckily in the past I've always had friends I can go to, like Izzy J or the Jaded Oddity, who I know will provide me with good feedback, lately it's been a challenge finding script editors for those videos. I had two different people who both essentially noped out of looking at the J.K. Rowling Nazi crime denial and the misrepresentation of transphobia script for their own mental health, and in that case I have to just respect it, because your mental health always comes first. The irony is that for as much as people like Rowling claim that trans people want to insert themselves into every conversation and be the centre of attention and all of that, most trans people in my experience are pretty fed up of being talked about on the news and being at the centre of every political debate. They just want to be left alone and want it to stop, because it's tiresome and it's depressing. I find it depressing, and I'm not directly affected by any of it, so I can't even imagine what it's like if you are an LGBTQ person. You know, if I want to, I can choose to just log off of social media and ignore it, but if you are in that community, you don't really have that option. It is your life, essentially. So I don't really have a conclusion to this except to open up the floor to my LGBTQ+ viewers, because again, my voice is not the one that is important, and any feedback I can get would be very much welcome. Also, if there is anyone who would perhaps be willing to read over my scripts in future, that would be very much appreciated as well. But in the meantime, I just want everyone to know that we are all valid and we are all in this together.